Drop in the chat where you're from, what your business is. We'd love to know who's with us today.
And Megan, we're live. Just a heads up.
Perfect. Thank you all for being here. I know as business owners, you guys do not have all the free time in the world, so we really appreciate you joining us. Today, we're going to talk about something that I think every business owner needs to hear or probably has frustrations with, and that is your Google business profile. Sometimes if your phone's not ringing like it should, you don't have the leads that you used to, or if some competitors that you know you're better than are outranking you, your Google business profile may be part of the problem. But the good news is it's super easy to fix. And today we're going to show you exactly how. For those of you who don't know us, we're Rook Digital. We work with local and service-based businesses across the country to improve their visibility, positioning, and lead generation through digital marketing. And our focus is performance. There's no fluff. We're just focused on getting you the best results that you can get in your market. So what we're sharing today comes from our real campaigns, real clients, and real data that we see every day. For today, Phil's going to walk us through this strategy and provide examples. We'll keep it tactical and actionable, so hopefully you can jump right from this call into making those changes in your Google Business profile right away. And at the end, we'll open up for open Q&A. But if you have a question in the meantime, drop it in the chat and tag Kevin. He'll be able to stop Phil and get your question answered. Or if you want to, just save it to the end. Totally up to you. So our presenter today is Phil Hudson. He's the CEO and co-founder of Rook Digital, and he works with us and our clients every day to provide amazing marketing information that we think that you'll find extremely valuable. And with that, I will let Phil take it away.
Awesome. Hey, thank you all for being here. We got some people on YouTube. We got some people here with us in the Zoom. For the Zoom, it means you registered, so we're going to prioritize your questions. I'd love to know where you're coming from, why you're here. We do see a couple people I know. Meg, it's good to see you. I think we got Annie here live, which is awesome. Got our worlds colliding over here, Kevin, which is great. Meg's giving us a thumbs up. Great. So again, this will be recorded. We'll send out a replay for you, and then we'll make sure that we prioritize any questions you have. So what are we talking about today? That's the big question. I'm a big whiteboard guy, so I'm going to go ahead and share my iPad, and we're going to sketch some stuff out. Should make it a little easier to grasp some of these topics. Google Business Profile specifically is prioritizing optimizing your map listing. Google Business Profiles, or GBP, as we call it for short. It's gone through many names. It's had multiple things, but GBP, again, is the shorthand for your map listing in Google. And if there's anything vital to a local business, it's your map listing. So we need to make sure we're prioritizing that. It's really important to note that the success of your map ranking will be directly related to how well you've optimized your website. That being said, there are some really specific things we can do to take advantage of and help your map improve, rank better, and convert better. And the conversion piece is really what we're talking about. Over the last couple of weeks, we've been talking about how to increase conversions, how to get more leads, how to reduce friction, how to build trust. Today's not any different. We're just specifically looking at your Google Business Profile. We're going to have a very specific actionable checklist for you to go through at the end of this, so pay attention to that as well. And then Kevin, later today, I believe we do have a worksheet we're going to be sending out. Is that right, Kevin?
Yep.
Kevin, do you want to just take 2 seconds and introduce yourself so people know who they're talking to when they have questions?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name's Kevin, and I work with Phil at Rook Digital. My main focus is social media, but I also do Google Ads. I write some articles and things like that, and we're just excited for everyone to be here today. And there's a lot of stuff to know about Google Business Profile, and Phil's going to give everyone the rundown of it.
Awesome. So what are we going to do today? Let's just dive in. Our big promise is more calls. And let me know when you're seeing my iPad. I've got a slight delay I'm noticing here. Is that popping up for you guys yet?
Not quite yet. There it is.
Okay. Yeah. So we're going to do more calls from Google Maps in 7 days. And this is agnostic to whatever business you're in. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're a plumber, it doesn't matter if you're an electrician, it doesn't matter if you're a web design agency, it doesn't matter if you run a local theater, it doesn't matter any of that. It all applies because what we're talking about and what we teach at Rook are fundamentals, we try to demystify this to make it as easy and actionable as possible. So number one, that's the goal today. We're going to talk about how to make it actionable so in the next 7 days you can get more calls from Google Maps. So let's kind of talk about what the traditional logic is. So map views will lead to more clicks, which will lead to more calls, which will lead to booked jobs or clients. Again, whatever your business result is, it might even be more sales if you're doing e-commerce and have a brick and mortar site or whatever it is. So that's your traditional logic. Now at Rook, we like to talk about marketing in terms of funnels, right? And so in your funnel, you've got the top of funnel, which you can call cold traffic, middle's warm, and the bottom is hot. That's a really simple way of kind of thinking through this. So the more views you get, traditionally you would think you're going to get more clicks, which makes somebody warm, which can lead to a call, which lets you know somebody's hot. And then at the bottom of that funnel, that is dollar bills in your pocket. That's a closed business. It's leads, it's whatever it is you're trying to accomplish. So the problem with this logic, and the main place people fail, is right here. Somebody clicks on your Google business profile and they don't call, they bounce. Or we might show it as this. Oh, I'm back to my eraser here. I love my iPad. Sometimes it does some funny stuff. They pop out over here and they leave, or they go back up here and they go back and they do a different search where they compare against somebody else. What are we trying to do? We're trying to steadily walk people down that funnel as progressively as possible by reducing as much friction as we can. Does that make sense? Okay. So how do we do that? The biggest thing is we need to increase our trust, our relevance, and we need to reduce friction. So friction is one of those nebulous terms that people talk about. What is it? Is there anything you do that makes things more frustrating? Is there anything you do to make it take more effort on the other person, on the end user? Is there anything you can do to speed things up or make it easier to transact? I think a great example of this is if you have a phone number on your website, 555-555-5555, and you just have it there, so then the user has to pull up their phone and then go type in the number to call you, that is friction. Whereas you can make this a clickable link as an example, and then it just calls. And that's a no-brainer. We talked about that last week. All phone numbers on your website should be click to call. That's a good example of how to reduce friction. And if we can do that, we're going to be more successful in converting people, right? So let's talk very specifically about a gap that we have, okay? So we're going to think about it in terms of a triangle. I don't know what kind of triangle that is. I did not do well in Coach Larson's geometry class, but that was 10th grade and that was many years ago, so we're going to move on. The big side of this, there's three sides to this triangle, okay? So we talked about friction. One of those is relevance. That's your big, bold glossary term in the world of SEO, okay? You have to have relevance. We'll explain that in a minute. You have to have trust, and then you have to show activity. And your Google business profile is capable of doing all of these things. So relevance really just means what you do. Matches what the person is looking for. This is a fundamental principle of SEO. This has been around since, Google was invented. It's been around since before that, in the Lycos Alta Vista era, if you're old enough to be my age or older. Relevance is key. You have to have it. Trust is proof for two things: that you're real, right? And you're good. There's a lot of scams in this world, and there are a lot of people who are not good at what they say they do. So you have to showcase both of those things. The next thing is you need activity, and you do that through freshness. And freshness could be things like posts, changes, reviews. We'll go through all that in some more detail. But freshness is another one of those classic SEO principles. Trust is a conversion principle. So That is one of the bigger things we need to be focusing on, and that's how you get more calls. The relevance and the activity, that's how you rank better. The trust is the gold metric for you. Okay. So it's really important that if you're not, let's just frame it this way, right? Your problem generally is not going to be ranking. You're not ranking, you're being selected. That's the goal. Rankings can't take care of themselves. If you do these things, they all help each other. The goal really is to be selected. Any questions about that?
I don't see anything in the chat yet.
Okay, no worries. All right, so let's go ahead and move forward then. All right, so, oh, turn off my iPad. Forgive me here. There we go. All right. I think the other thing I want to wrap your head around is that if you're missing one of these sides to a triangle, what happens to the triangle? It collapses. I'm a jujitsu guy. If you look at any jujitsu school, they're going to have a triangle as kind of that metric, and it's because typically what you're doing is you're creating stable positions with triangles and you're collapsing triangles. So if I'm trying to put an armbar on somebody, for example, I need to collapse their triangle so that I can make it weaker in order to succeed. That may be as simple as moving an arm up and then that'll collapse, or down. But in a tough triangle position, it won't work. So if you fail to show trust, if you fail to show relevance, you fail to show activity, you are buried and dead. Those are my pretty flowers. Kevin likes my flowers. Okay. So just keep that in mind. We're trying not to be buried here. And in order for you to be selected, you have to show up and you have to provide relevant trust. And if you can't do that, you're going to be in trouble. So let's go ahead and make this actionable. So we'll do the quick audit. And again, if you have questions, put them in the chat. Kevin and Megan know they can interrupt me and we can answer your questions real time or when it's appropriate, but love to help you get the most out of this. We had quite a few people register for this event, and you can see not everybody shows up to them. So this is a real opportunity to engage with us and get some free consulting and answer specific questions about your business. So next is the quick audit. So let's talk about it. These are things you can do today to try to improve things. Kevin, I believe this is all going to be in the worksheet as well for people to review and see.
Yep. And I dropped the link in the chat.
I saw that. So that should be super helpful for everybody. But so number one, is your category correct? That seems like a no-brainer, but I think you'd be surprised how many audits we do where we find out that they're just people are in the wrong category. The other thing is people don't know that you can have a primary category. You can also have a secondary category. We'll explain a little bit more about that later, but you should have both. You should have both a primary and a secondary category. Next, we're going to talk about your service area. This is another one of those faux pas we see when we audit websites. We see this. And I'm going to give you a simple rule here. Your service area shouldn't be weird. Now, there are two types of businesses. There are people who do business in an area, like a plumber, an electrician, a service-oriented business. You're going to serve people at their location. That's a service area where you're putting up like a grid or like a circle around you. That's a service area. The other side of that would be you do business in your location, like for example, it could be a theater, it could be a retail store, it could be you have a specific building that someone needs to come to pay a bill, or it could be a lawyer, an attorney, it could be any of those things, a dentist, a doctor, people come to you. So service areas are the main place we see this weird. We're not listing an address. For most people, this is the big one we want to talk about. Any questions before I move forward, Kevin?
Yeah, Meg has a question. She wants to know, can you talk about some ways to increase our relevance and trust to get clicks, podcasts, lesson drips, coaching tips specific to children's theater and studio? And she's specifically in the like Dallas Fort Worth area.
Yeah, of course. We're going to go through some very specific things you should be doing across all of these. One of those things is making sure that you're active on your Google business profile, posting content there. So I would treat your Google business profile like a social media profile, just as much as I would treat Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, Facebook, all of those. You should be posting regularly in that area. You should also be doing that on YouTube. Your YouTube posts, very underrated way to reach people. It assumes you have subscribers, but if you need to reach your subscribers, that's a much faster way to reach people than posting a video, for example. So just treat it like a social media profile where you're active, posting things, and we'll talk about some very specifics on that. That's a great question. So keep those coming. All right, so in the service area, let's talk about a very specific world where this becomes important. And a lot of people don't know this. This is some super nerdy stuff on the back end of Google, but there were a bunch of filters and a bunch of algorithm changes that happened between like 2011 and still happening every day. But some really big ones happened in 2011, 2012, 13, 14, 15. So the Google Panda algorithm change came out in November of 2011. And a really big push on that came out in 2012. Then we saw Penguin, and that one really hit in 2012. And this was the web spam sheriff, is what they called it. So this was looking at usability and spam, and that changed the front page of the web. It broke a lot of things. Okay. These still exist in the algorithm. They're just part of the core algorithm now. But this was a real rocky time for people in the digital marketing world. What came out later were some very specific filters for maps. And one of those was Google Possum, and the other was Penguin. And what do these mean? The big one we need to focus on is going to be right here. It's going to be the Possum filter. And so if you go to Google and you do a search for something like pizza, and not Ritza, I don't know why I wrote an R, but pizza, you're going to see a map listing and then the 3-pack or the map pack, and then you're going to see more, and then you can go and you can see the 72 other pizza parlors. But people are being selected here. The map pack is the most valuable real estate that you can own. You need to own that as a local business. In this area here, they're going to show your map. They're going to show your city, right? These are your city streets. And then you're going to get some pins popping in here. Ignore all that red writing. I don't know why it's doing that, but those pin placements are typically going to be numbers 1, 2, and 3, and you're going to see where they are in the city. That map, if we zoom in on that, that map is filtered by Possum. Okay, so again, not an art class, don't judge me. It's your city, right? And then you got your pins. The space that you can see on that map when you do a search, that is Google's way of saying we've looked at all of the businesses of this type in your area, and based on user metrics from Google Maps, from the Waze app, from all the user signals people use for getting directions, and they're talking trillions and trillions of interactions. They are saying people for your type of business will only go in that box. So for example, if you're in San Diego and you're trying to rank in downtown San Diego, but you're a plumber and you're up in North County, you're never going to rank in the map in downtown San Diego, because people in downtown San Diego can call one of the 20 other plumbers in downtown San Diego. They're not likely to call you and have you drive 30 minutes into downtown to serve them. And so this filter is a really important thing to understand, okay? So you can't game the system, you have to work within the system. And that means you can't be weird about it, okay? That means your service area can't be the entire state. It can't be multiple counties. Even if you do serve them, we need to be very strategic, and we need to be very cutthroat about what we're putting into that service area so that we have a chance to rank. If you try to play the game where you're trying to rank outside of this filter, kind of this halo effect around this, you're going to have a bad time, right? It's going to reduce your relevance. And if you go back up here, relevance, you're going to reduce your relevance if you play outside of that filter. Okay. So that doesn't mean you shouldn't list all of the places you have. If you have multiple locations, you should have individual Google business profiles for every single location as well. But hopefully I'm not beating that dead horse too much. Any questions about that, Kevin? I know that's a lot.
Nope, nothing yet.
Okay. Awesome. So let's go back to our checklist. Okay. So next on our checklist, first, again, we have categories. Next, we have service areas, or your service area. Next, are your hours correct? Again, you would be surprised. Do they accurately reflect when you're open? Do they reflect the holidays? Are you closed on specific holidays? How can you reduce friction and pain points when people try to come to your business and they can't find you, right? Or when they call and you don't answer? I had an emergency vet when I lived in Los Angeles, and I called them and I couldn't get a hold of them. And they listed that they were open 24/7. And then I finally got a hold of them, went in the next day, and I told them like, "Oh, we do that because we want to show up." And I was like, "Yeah, but you like my dog could have been mortally wounded or injured or sick. So it's not okay. It rubbed me wrong, and we didn't go back to that vet after that." Okay, so this is a real personal, example of why not to game that system. Next, is your phone clickable? If you can't pull up your listing and see that you can click your phone to call, it means you haven't set that up properly. So you need to claim your Google business profile, and then you need to make sure that you've filled that out properly. Is your website link the right link? Are you sending people where you want them to go? Most people aren't. Most people are sending them to some random thing or they don't have one. And so you're going to lose people that way. Are you following address rules? Okay. Don't fake it. You don't want to put directions to a random virtual mailbox if you don't have somebody there. You want to have the option to do a service area instead. And there are many cases where you don't have a functioning office or want people to come, so that would make sense. Are your photos recent? This isn't a set it and forget it situation. You should be updating regularly. You have new staff, update the photos. You do a remodel, update the photos. You got new jobs you've done, update the photos. And we'll get into more specifics on that as well. And then the last, are your reviews recent? If your business hasn't received a review in 10 years, are you still in business? If your business hasn't received a review in 1 year, are you still in business? If your business hasn't seen a review in 3 months, are you still in business? There's a law in economics, I believe it's called the Lindy effect. And it basically states that the time you've been in business is basically to the time you will be in business. Okay, so there's an assumption there, and that works reverse as well for consumer psychology. Any questions about that?
There's a couple in the chat. Kevin, go
Yeah.
ahead.
Yeah, so Meg had a question. So North Texas or focus on Plano, Texas only?
So what I would do is you can just pull up your map. So you can Google like be in your office, like be in your theater, and then do a search for your area, like for your business, type local theater or theater, and then look at the map and then get an idea of what that looks like, what counties there are, what cities are within that. And then when you set up your service area, you can map that better to the possum filter that we were talking about over here. Okay. In rural areas like Texas, I grew up in Oklahoma for, many years. Like rural areas are very different than metropolitan areas. Like in Los Angeles, for example, I mean, Kevin lives in Los Angeles right now. How many pizza parlors are there within a 10-block radius of you?
There's a lot. I dropped a screenshot in the chat of what it would look like if I just searched pizza. There's a lot.
Yeah, it's crazy. And that map listing, that's probably like 2 square miles. It's like
Oh yeah.
not a big
Yep.
area. But Megan here, who is in Middle America, I don't know what we want to call you, not the Middle East, Middle America. If you were to do a search, how many pizza parlors would show up for you?
In my immediate area, two.
Yeah. But if you extrapolated that out, it's probably going to show a multiple 10-mile radius, 20-mile radius because you're in a more rural area than where Kevin is. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's great.
I think our maps default at like 25 miles because there's not that much around here.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Okay. Any other questions?
Yeah, Luis wants to know how can you fix your Google Business Profile account when someone else was running it?
Yeah, so you have to reclaim that, and there's a whole process for it. That's way more in depth than we can go in today. But if you schedule one of the audits, you go to our website, you can see that there's links everywhere. Schedule an audit, and then you'll actually get in touch with Paul. Paul is one of the other co-founders of Rook, and he is our local expert, and he can help you fix that. So happy to help you as part of our audit. We can kind of give you some guidance on how to reclaim it. This is a very common thing, especially if you've hired a digital marketing agency. One of the common tactics we find is they kind of shackle you and they hold you hostage by owning your content. So, kind of off topic rule of thumb for everybody here. I shouldn't say rule of thumb, there's some bad historical context there, but general guideline here is you should own everything. You should own your domain, you should have full access to your hosting, you should have everything. That's a super key thing. Okay. And that's one of the ways you can prevent that is there's something called a primary owner for Google Business Profile. You want to be the primary owner, and then there's an owner. Very often as an agency, we need to be an owner to do things. And so we may need to take over primary ownership, but we immediately delegate it back to the client. But anything we set up, Google Analytics, Google Search Console, we always make sure that the business is the primary owner. Why? Because sometimes things don't work out. Sometimes you don't need us anymore and you need a clean break. And we want to prevent that. And a lot of agencies will hold you hostage. So, yeah, please reach out, schedule an audit, and we can help you with that for sure. Okay. Any other questions?
Nope, that's it for now.
Okay. So if you're doing this audit and you're checking your category, your service area, your hours correctly, is your phone clickable? Is your website link correct? Your address rules, your photos are recent, your reviews are recent, and you get a no, is that a bad thing? No, it's not. It's a quick win. Congratulations. You have actionable details you can go fix right now to improve your result. Okay. We can't change the past. We can only change the future. So if there's a problem with this audit, go fix it and celebrate because now you're going to see some quick improvement. Right? That's a win for you. It's much harder to fix a problem with a perfectly optimized Google business profile that's not ranking than it is to fix a poorly optimized profile with some quick fixes that you're probably going to see most of your competitors aren't doing that right anyway. So it's not uncommon just doing this audit and updating these can get you in that 3-pack, the map pack. Okay. All right, so let's hone in on some stuff as we start talking about relevance. So Meg, this is going back to your question earlier, and we're talking to Meg. We know Meg from our other world in the film and TV and acting world. So we're happy to have Meg here with us. But again, great questions, and these principles apply to everybody. So if you have a specific question about your business, feel free to ask that as well. The more active you are, the more we can help you too. Okay, so categories and services. So this is the relevance question. How can you increase your relevance in categories and services? So I would think about it this way. Your categories and services, as we mentioned, you can have a primary and a secondary. If this is my driver's license, and that's Phil, right? I've got a beard, so we'll put a big beard on that guy. And then you've got the state, right? And you got date of birth, you got all this information. Are you a donor? Whatever that is. All of that is your ID. That's your license to exist and to drive a motor vehicle. There are different levels of licenses, but they all start with a certain class of license. And I'm not smart enough to know. I want to say it's class C, but that could be very wrong. But you have an endorsement, and that is to drive a vehicle. But if you flip that over on the back, you might see more endorsements. And it might be a motorcycle, it might be a CDL, but that's printed right on the back of your license. So your ability to operate, to even function as a business in the maps, that's your primary category. These other endorsements are these secondary categories or services. Does that make sense? So having your Google business profile and setting up your primary category, that's a win. Going in and finding any of the other categories that apply to what you do, those are other endorsements that allow you to also rank for those other categories. So you should be doing both. All right. Okay. So let's talk about the 3 rules. Ooh. Number 1, you're going to choose the right category. and I'm going to underline right, okay? Because there's a lot of categories that matches how your customer searches. Okay. What you do may not apply to a specific category. Generally, they do, but there are general categories. So again, I mentioned jujitsu earlier. Jujitsu is a martial art. It's also a specific art, and there are specific categories for jujitsu, right? But that may not be what your customer's searching for. Maybe they're looking for self-defense. Maybe they're looking for martial art broadly, right? Maybe they're looking for youth programs. And so you want to match what the customer search is. And the jujitsu one's interesting because it's spelled wrong in Google, because there's a Japanese and a Brazilian, and everybody thinks Brazilian because of the UFC. But that's a specific example of you need to treat that through a specific lens. Most of the time, it's going to be what you are. If you're a dentist, you're a dentist. If you're a theater, you're a theater. Sometimes that may not match, and you need to do customer intent. What are they looking for? Okay. Number 2, add the services that you actually do. Again, actually do. Don't try to game the system. You are not a pizza parlor, even if you sell frozen pizzas at your theater. Meg, I don't think you sell frozen pizzas at your theater, but the point is, you're not a pizza parlor. Don't try to be one, right? Unless you're a pizza parlor, be that, but be what you are. Own that. Don't try to game the system. And then 3, stop adding junk categories. There's a principle which we're going to talk about a little bit later as well, but this is coming a lot for me in a lot of the consulting I do. And it's this old rule from Google. They are looking for a preponderance of evidence. It needs to be so clear that you are what you are, you can't possibly be anything else. And one of the best signals you can do is by setting up your categories, claiming your secondary categories. Okay. If this matches what your website says and you do proper SEO and you've got the right keywords on the page and that matches what that says, that is a stronger signal that you should rank for that thing. So we're trying to build a preponderance of evidence. Okay. Any questions about that, Kevin?
I don't see anything in the chat.
All right. So let's give you another guideline and then we'll move on. If a customer searches for X, is it crystal clear? You offer X? Or does it feel more like you offer Y and Z? Okay, so just for context, if someone is looking for a plumber, is it crystal clear that you're a plumber? If someone's looking for emergency dental, is it crystal clear that you offer emergency dental? If it is not, that is friction, and you are hurting both your relevance and your friction. So that will damage you. All right. Okay, so let's talk about the next thing, which is photos. And we are running out of time, so I'll keep moving here. But go ahead and interrupt me, Kevin or Megan, if anything comes up.
You got it.
So in our pyramid here, right, if we're thinking about how to handle this, photos can be classified into certain groups. There's proof, there's process, there's outcome. I'm going to use my hyphen. I haven't used that in a hot minute. So let's talk about some examples. Trucks, team, and uniform. Okay. That proof here, that's a really important thing. Trucks, team, and uniform proves you're not a scam and you are real. Does that make sense to everybody? Proof that you're a functioning, existing business, and if they call you, you can serve them. The next thing to think about, jobs before and after. Okay, what does that look like? There's equipment, and your shop, And that could be your dental practice. That's here. That's here, right? So they can serve two purposes, all right? Permits, licenses, okay? Proof. These are all great things to be thinking about. So here's your other rule. Real beats stock. Quantity and recency matter. All right. There was a time when having a complete profile was the goal. And that still is important. You have to have a complete profile, which means you have to have a certain number of photos. And for many people who don't have a photographer, they don't want to put photos up there. But I promise you, time and time again, and Megan, maybe you can hop in and just kind of talk about some of your experience with this. Real is better than professional. And in our world, if you post a selfie video and run that as an ad, oftentimes that gets way better engagement than the most professional commercial you can shoot. Megan, can you talk briefly about that?
Yeah, so one of the things that we preach really hard, especially when you're running ads, is be authentic. Show them exactly what's going to come to their door or what they're going to see when they come to your door, because that's what people are looking for. If somebody, like we talk about plumbers all the time, but if someone has a pipe burst in their house and there's water going everywhere and you're going to come to their house and fix it, they want to know what your truck looks like because the majority of the time it's just one person who's at the home, generally a wife with children. She wants to trust that the person in the picture is coming to her house. And that's a huge deal to build trust with people, especially if you're in a bigger area where you have a lot of business competition. Building trust and authenticity is the best way to gain credibility with someone. And those iPhone videos are perfect for that because you're in the wild and they're there with you. It goes a long way. They say reviews are like word of mouth sales, but then the other half of that is you have to appear authentic, and there's no better way to do that than just whip out your phone and show them what you look at every day.
Yeah. Now, Megan, before you had a pretty tough experience a couple weeks ago when the city hired contractors to come work in your neighborhood. You want to just talk about that to highlight your point?
Yeah, so um we're getting fiber optic cable laid in my area out here in rural America, and we had I had some people knock on my door, and I looked on the camera and there's these three men at the door, and they're just in hoodies and ball caps, and quite frankly they don't look like they're working. And anyway, the next thing I know is I see them on the camera talking about how they're going to bolt cut my gate lock and go in my backyard. Well, I'm here by myself, and I called the police department and I was like, I have a huge problem. Well, come to find out, when the police came, they were with the internet company subcontracting to lay fiber optics. Their truck wasn't labeled, they didn't have a company shirt or hat between them, and they had no way to identify themselves. And if I would have been them online, I would have been like, I don't think you're a real business because I did not think they were here for business at my door.
Yeah, that's a great example. And I think it's unfortunately a real example that caused some trauma to you. You were pretty upset about it. So the professional aspect of this, that's the proof piece. And establishing that through your photos, even selfies. Look, we're human beings. And I would trust a selfie taken on an iPhone of like my furnace has been out for like a month and a half and they had to order a part. That specific example, I would trust the selfie video on the phone over any other photo because of the AI of it all. There's a real world where any image can be generated. Selfies just have more trust, or a cell phone. So, Kevin, I know I saw Megan's note here. You want to go ahead and invite her off mute? Thanks, Megan, for sharing that.
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah, we can do it now. Meg, I'm gonna unmute you so you can ask your question.
Hi, thank you so much. So we are in an area that has quite a few children's theaters. We just opened a new studio, so this is really helpful. I've already gone in on Google and done some of the things, thankfully, that you're suggesting for our studio. But what I've seen recently in my new role is we are very authentic. We are home. We have that reputation of high quality training. But in terms of pulling in new students, we live in a very wealthy area of DFW. North Texas is very wealthy. We have parents who have really high expectations. I mean, if you can compare the theater world to the select soccer teams everywhere that's where what we're living in. And so I just hired a guy, wonderful friend of mine, to do a great promo video that was more high-end professional to try to also capture that. So, but I'm hearing you say like authenticity, filling that out, but I also feel this pressure of competing also for those parents who are like, oh, but you're not so shiny. You're not as shiny. You don't have this pizzazz. And I don't want there to be a perception that we are not professional, that we do not have the highest quality because we've won awards for it, but we're smaller than some of these like giant machines that are money making. So am I asking this correctly? Like, what is that balance? And did I do the wrong thing by, creating a great video also of our kids smiling and it's our real students, but it's just a higher quality, kind of more of a promo video? What's the balance?
Yeah, Megan's shaking her head saying you didn't do anything wrong here. Megan, you want to go for it, and then I'll chime in.
Oh, yeah, sure. I think if you have competitive pressure and there's an expectation out of your clients, you should meet their expectation every single time. And I think that what you're talking about, balance, is really the key word for you there. It's show enough of yourself to become personable and people trust you, especially with their children, but then also put on the presentation of, we're also high end. Small doesn't mean bad. Oftentimes it's just boutique or bespoke. And that's a whole different level of exclusivity that you can offer that those machines cannot. Because with you, likely kids get more one-on-one, and the machines, they're just a registration. So you have a lot to play with there. And I think I don't know that there's a number balance. Like I can't tell you it's 5-1 or 10-1, but I think if you have them there and those promo videos that are high end and well done are, uh, up front, like a pinned post or higher on your web page or included in your GBP, I think that that's perfect. And just follow that up with the more authentic things as well.
I think Meg said here, awesome, thank you in the chat. But I think I 100% agree. And I think there's a world where leading with your best foot forward, showing we're professional, and then filling the gap with everything else, right? Including the other videos. I was hired by Searchlight Pictures and Hulu to shoot social media promo videos for the Broken Lizard guys, the Super Troopers guys, Beer Fest, all that stuff. And I literally had my DSLR, my big heavy camera that can shoot 1080p, 4K. I can like go shoot it. And I had my iPhone, and I said, why am I going to carry this around when the iPhone can do all of this better? So I took my brand new iPhone 14 and I went out on the road with them to NASCAR at COTA, Chicago, Tennessee, San Diego, LA. I shot all this content raw on my phone, and the quality was just as good because I understood some basic fundamentals of film. And I was able to get great content out of that. So when I'm saying shoot a selfie video, I think there's a reality that people don't expect every piece of content you're producing to be 100% commercial shot. And it's that balance is show you're professional, but also show you're real and authentic, like Megan said. So that helps. Okay. I see another question here. Megan, do you want to do that while or Paul, or not Paul, Kevin, whoever's doing it. I'm just going to pull it up here.
I was going to respond in the chat, but yes, we can there are ways that you can get around using your home address for your service-based business, and it does require a little bit of a different strategy. So I'm going to drop a link to an article that we wrote on our website in the chat for you. And then also, if you want that one-on-one, we can walk you through what that looks like in the link that we sent you earlier.
Cool. All right. Looks like Gabriel has a question here too with his hand up.
Oops, sorry, I just accidentally muted him. Sorry about that, Gabriel.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, sorry about that. Thanks for the presentation, guys. It's pretty informative. I'm a real estate agent flying solo, so my territory is my city. I have a website that's going to be something like movingtocity.com, so mycityname.com. And Google's telling me that I have to operate on the Google profile under my name, my personal name. is that 100%? And can I put the website address throughout and talk about my website and the business name that I'm using?
Yeah, what they're specifically calling out there is gaming your title by
Mhm.
including keyword phrases or doing keyword stuffing. Am I catching what you're asking about here?
Well, I was doing that, and then I was just conversing with support the other day about another issue, and I asked them, can I, because I did a search and it told me that I couldn't put anything like realtor or anything in the name. So I removed everything and just put my first name and last name.
Let's get you on the phone with Paul. Go ahead and schedule that audit, Gabriel, because you have a very specific question, and I don't agree with them. So what they say, and this is something you got to understand on Google, what they say and what they do are different things. And what they give you are general guidelines for most people because they were trying to prevent a larger issue, which is spam and keyword stuffing. But
Right.
I can guarantee there's ways around that. So, for example, Rook Digital Marketing is the name of our Google business profiles. And we're breaking three rules by doing that. But that is the name of our business. Our domain is Rook Digital. Our brand is Rook Digital Marketing. Our LLC is Rook SEO because it's old.
Interesting.
So
So you don't have to match the LLC.
it should match whatever your basically your DBA is, you're doing business as. And that can be whatever you have on the masthead of your website. And your header, it could be what you have in the footer, it could be what's on your about page. You just need some way of documenting that. What you run the risk of is getting flagged for keyword stuffing or some of these other terms, and they'll shut your profile down, and then you have to go through the process of challenging that. But what's typically going to happen is they're going to go verify your website and say, yeah, does this match? Is this who they are? And you'll be fine. But yeah, I would recommend in your situation, let's have you on the phone with Paul. You can book on his calendar on that link on our website, and he can give you some very specific guidance there. And those
Okay.
audits, they're free. We don't charge for them. Just
Okay.
happy to provide some feedback. And if we can work with you in
I
some other way,
appreciate
great.
that.
Yeah.
And then as someone that's just starting out and, I'm going to go heavy into Google profile. That's really why I'm here today.
Right move for sure. Yeah.
What do you think is if you were starting from scratch to rank a company, what are the most important things? Are reviews that important? I mean, I'll have reviews, but I'll have 5 or 10 compared to local agents in my town that have 50, 60, 105.
Yeah. Reviews
What
matter. Reviews matter, but what I'm hearing the question is what's the most valuable thing you could be
can I
doing?
ever rank high if I don't have that number of reviews is really
Yes. The answer is yes, but there are about 1,000 other signals you need to send. The short answer to this, and again, Paul will give you very specific feedback for your market and looking at those competitors because we'll look at your competitors as well.
Mhm.
The foundation for all of this is your website. Your website has to be optimized, and it has to be optimized very well for all of the things you're claiming your Google business profile is about. If it is not optimized for those things, you cannot rank. You can, but it's going to be so much more difficult for you. And typically, you can only in a market that is not saturated or very competitive. Okay. So your website is fundamental to all of this. And then we get into what we talk about in the AIO, the AI optimization world, which is just SEO with bells and whistles. Just be very clear here. It's all the fundamentals of SEO. Don't let people sell you on, oh, you need an AIO. It's just SEO. But there are some fundamental things in AIO we talk about called building an entity and an entity ID that we can build towards a knowledge panel and a knowledge graph, which is what we do for our clients. And it's how you tie all of those things together to tell this story again of a preponderance of evidence that you are the right person to rank when someone looks for you. Are you going to rank other people on the other side of the town? No, because of that possum filter, you may not, but you might. And that's why I think in your case, audit really would help you because Paul will give you very specific info on that.
Okay. Last question then, I guess, is do people that have like realtors, for example, that have territories versus a realtor that has an office, do they have a chance to rank against that office, or that's really, really difficult?
I think it just depends on organization rules. And then I think we just ran into this with one of our real estate clients. There's some specific rules, and you'll know better than me about claiming you have an office location,
Yeah, you can't.
right? You
You have
can't,
to
even
have
if
one.
You have to have an office, even if you have the right to work out of that other office.
Correct.
Yeah, you have to have the office. So
You have to be
that
able to serve customers from it, or Google will ban you, and it's against the real estate rules as well.
it's the real estate rule would be the one I'd be
You
way
need a
more concerned.
brokerage.
Yeah. So if the brokerage, for example, has 3 offices in a territory, are you able to build a Google business profile in each office?
I don't think so.
And
Because
that's-
there's mixed signals. Some people say don't use their office, because if you move or disassociate yourself with that brokerage, then you're stuck in that territory.
we'll talk to Paul about this, because we do a lot of real estate, and
Mhm.
I'm sure you're familiar with the brand Realty Executives.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've spoken at their national convention in Vegas. I've done a bunch of stuff with them. They were a long-term client at this agency I was at years ago, before I went to film school and did the whole TV thing. But we gave them very specific guidance on this as well. So I'm pretty familiar with your industry. There are specific rules, and what we want to do is we want to do 2 things. We want to keep you 100% in line with the legal requirements of what you do.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, what Google says and what other people say, there's some gray area there that you can play in without risking a penalty, and we never want to risk penalization. Okay?
Do you guys work with like small companies, or what?
Totally. Yep, we can work with most people. We have local businesses. One solo. You're a solo real estate agent. We work with people like you all the time. Dental practices, individual lawyers. We do a lot of services like that.
Okay.
We also do one truck plumbing, plumbers.
How do I get Paul's number? Just go to the website?
Well, if Megan just put a link in the chat for you, you can just go click that link and schedule an audit with him right on his calendar.
Okay. Very
Yeah,
good. Thank you.
Yeah, I think there's a link to text him there too. I got like 2 more points to get through, but I want to answer Rebecca's question, and then maybe we'll proceed, and then we can do some more Q&A, and I can stay on late if we need to.
Cool.
Rebecca, if you want to ask your question.
Oh, yes. I'll make it quick.
Yeah, no worries.
So this is kind of a subtlety of categories and services. I have a dance studio. I'm in San Diego. We teach dance lessons.
Love it.
And what I've learned over the years is that people search for dance lessons, and they don't specify what kind, because they're assuming that what's in their head, like you all just have an idea of what I do. And it could be very different. It could be children, adults, tap, ballet, jazz, with all these different things. But people are still going to search for dance lessons if they want me, but also if they want other people. I do partner dancing. I do ballroom dancing.
Yeah.
And I don't know that people really search that as much as they just do general dance lessons. So on the map, I show up as a dance studio with a tap studio for kids and a ballet studio and a lot of things that don't apply. But if I make myself more accurate, I think less people who do want me will find me, because they're not going to type in ballroom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yep. This is the jujitsu question, and I think any of these sports work here, right? So jujitsu is a very specific. It's the ballroom dance, but it can be even more than that. It's not just ballroom dance. It's foxtrot. It's West Coast swing. It's Lindy, right? I did a little bit of ballroom in high school because I got to dance with girls. So I appreciate what you do,
The
Rebecca.
only reason to do it, man.
Yeah, I know. Floral design also. I'm a world-class bow tire, by the way. State champ. But that being said, you're in one of those very specific situations again, right? Where if you're too specific, it can be restrictive. But if you're not specific enough, if you're not broad enough, you're going to miss out on work. So what we do, and we can do this for you as part of an audit as well, is we have tools where we can actually go find out what are people actually looking for. What are it's called volume. How many people on average every month are looking for this keyword phrase in Google? And then we would just match that up. There's also a world where we can get a little bit more specific in metropolitan areas like San Diego, where we can say, what does this look like in San Diego or LA? A little bit more difficult if we were doing Farmington, New Mexico, right? Because there's just not enough data there. But we can absolutely pull up the very specific ones, and then we can make some recommendations on categories for you. There is a list. Megan, do we have that post available with a list of all of the GBP categories?
Yeah, I'll send it over in the chat.
She's going to put that in the chat. So that's another thing you can look at, Rebecca. And you might look at that and you might say, hey, look at all these things I didn't even know were in here. And so you might start broad as just dance. And then you might go deeper and make sure you're checking all of the core things you're doing and leave off things that you don't specialize in. Because someone looking for ballet, that's someone looking for ballet. They're not looking for ballroom. They want ballet. Do you do ballet as well?
Nope.
Yeah. So there's no reason to include that in your profile. But you might find, hey, there are people looking for, couples dance and ballroom. And I believe that's one of the things I experienced with the coaches we had in high school. They had a lot of couples classes teaching ballroom dance. Is that something you offer?
Well, we don't do, we only do private lessons, and
Okay.
it's all couples. It's all partnered dancing.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's the list of categories there. I think this is another situation where you'd help benefit from an audit, and Paul can go through that a little bit more specific. But I would say your primary category should be your general, and then you should be more specific in what we call niche down in those secondary categories. Is that kind of what you're doing already? I want to make sure this is helpful.
Yeah, I don't know that there's even specific, I can't remember if I'm listed under ballroom. I know I started with dance studio and then dance instructor, and that's kind of it.
Okay. Let Go ahead and schedule an audit if you don't mind, and then I can find out when Paul's doing that, and I can join you, and then we can just go through this together because I have a little bit more specific experience with what you do.
Okay,
Is that okay with you?
sounds good.
And then we can just tear apart your Google business profile together and figure out what categories you should be selecting. But um, there's that blog post right there that Megan just posted, and you can go read that article that talks about what the categories are, and that might help prime you as well to say, hey, here's what we should be doing. But I think keyword research for you specifically would be helpful to kind of guide us on what is the broadest level thing people are looking for, and then you can convert them. And I think you're nailing the you're hitting the nail on the head with the hammer here with the fact that, people who are looking for dance are not looking for ballroom. They're not looking for Irish dancing like my wife did. It's not a specific type. That's still a very broad search. We want to win on the ballroom searches. So you are the go-to for all ballroom. So there's no confusion when people look for ballroom in San Diego or your North County or any of the market you're in. They're going to find you. That's what the SEO on the website does, and we can do that and leverage that for the Google business profile. But we also want to make sure you're ranking for the broader thing you do, and then let people hopefully convert them and convince them that they should be doing ballroom rather than something else.
Okay.
Okay, does that help?
Yep.
Okay, awesome. Let's just hop back in then. I'm going to go ahead and mute you here, Rebecca. Let's hop in, and I know we've got 2 minutes left. I've got 2 more key points I want to get through. If you have to go, we understand. We're going to send a replay out to everybody. If you can stick with us, I'll stay on late, and we can definitely do some Q&A. Kevin, Megan, if you need to run for some other stuff, feel free to hop off. I know you got a busy day. So
Cool.
Okay. All right. I'm going to share my screen again. Let's hopefully this loads quick, and then we'll get through some key points here. The next thing I want to talk to you about, though, is reviews. And then the other thing we're going to talk about is specifically your posts and updates, which goes back to the question that Meg was asking earlier. There it goes. Okay. So reviews. Let's talk about what truly moves the needle here. So reviews by themselves are good, but they are better if they can include a keyword. And they're even better if they can include trust. Excuse me, let me go back. Location. Okay. So we know reviews and keywords lead to more traffic. If they land on the page or your profile and they build trust, that's how you're going to get more calls. So there's this idea in marketing called social proof. And when I was in sales, I had to take a sales job during the recession. I hated. I never wanted to be a sales guy. It's one of the best things I've ever done to grow. But one of the things that I learned early on that just is absolutely true is if I, as a salesperson, am telling you something, I am a liar. If you tell yourself something, it must be the truth. And this is this principle of cognitive dissonance, right? Where you will go to the ends of the earth to continue to believe what you believe and ignore evidence. But if you can come up with the solution to something, it must be true. If I tell you something, I'm a liar. If I guide you to that understanding, it must be true because you learned it yourself, right? So that's the big thing we're thinking about here. So reviews help with that. So let's talk about the rules of good reviews, like great reviews. So number one, you need to ask immediately after the job. And that might be for a dance studio. It might be immediately after a lesson or after the third lesson, after someone has a breakthrough and they've expressed that gratitude. Ask after that when they're the most prime. Okay. I think a better way to think about this is the win. Ask after the win. Okay. Not your win, their win. When did you complete the job successfully? When did you do those things? Next, give them a script. It's okay to have a pre-prepared review that they can sign off on. And very often you can send a review and say, hey, if this works for you, would you mind posting this? Feel free to change anything you want. You're way more likely to get that review because you've reduced friction. You've made it easy for them. Now, I want to talk about the ethical impact of this. When I first heard people doing this, I felt really gross about it because it felt manipulative or like I was cheating the system. And when I was in film school, I had to take a documentary film class. And there's this principle in documentary film called cinema verite, which is the truth of the lens. And this aligned very much for me, which is a documentary should only reflect things as they were gathered without outside influence and in chronological order. And when my professor told me that I should edit my interviews to tell the story I wanted to tell, I wanted to die inside. It felt so gross and unethical. Don't trust most documentaries, by the way. They're definitely telling you a story they want to tell you and they have an agenda. Sidebar. This truth of the camera, cinema verite, the reality is you are giving them an option to say, was this your experience? And then they have to post it. You're not posting it on their behalf. That is illegal and can get you huge fines from the FTC. But them posting it to your Google business profile on your behalf, just because you provided them a sample, totally okay. And I might be beating a dead horse or over explaining and projecting too much here, but that was a big hanging point for me that made me feel really uncomfortable when I found out some of the gross stuff people do in our industry. So I wanted to point that out. Next is you need to reply to every review. That shows activity and it shows that you're fast and human. That there are people paying attention. That's every review. That includes the negative reviews. And then you have a bad review protocol. I remember I had a client call me early on in my career and say, I just got a negative review. How can I get this removed? I'm no longer a 5-star. I'm a 4.8 star. And I said, congratulations. She said, what do you mean? And I said, people are probably going to trust you more now. And she said, what? And I was like, isn't 5 better? I was like, no, 5 feels fake. But we all know there are crazies out there you will never make happy. Kevin and I have a friend who we just saw someone, this guy's certifiably insane, was put in an institution for stalking this person. And they just left a book review on them talking about how this man conned them when they found their book on Amazon. Like, and there's nothing you can do about it. Like, he's just a crazy guy. They exist. So don't stress about bad reviews. 1, you just want to stay calm. 2, you want to state the facts. And then 3, you want to invite them offline. Hey, let's talk about this offline. Feel free to give us a call. Let me give you a call, right? Let's work this out. People can remove reviews. It's not very likely, but you can de-escalate situations. And sometimes people are just trying to be the squeaky wheel. And Kevin and Megan will tell you how much I feel about squeaky wheels. I have strong feelings about them. Okay. So what's your script, right? So number 1, can you mention my city? Number 2, would you recommend us? So your city should include keywords. What is the specific service you provided for them? I did an HVAC repair. That's a real review I just left. What city? HVAC repair, Lehi, Utah. This is where he's located, not where I'm located. HVAC repair, Lehi, Utah. Incredible. Would absolutely recommend to other people. That's what people are looking for. Okay. By the way, if you're a Chinese restaurant, your sweet spot for reviews is like 3 stars. That's really the good ones. The 5 stars are too American. 1s and 2s are gross. 3s, there's a kid doing math behind the counter, and you know it's going to be an awesome experience for everybody. So just keep that in mind. 5's not always bad. Okay. So any questions about that? Nothing in there? Okay, we'll just hit our last point. We'll keep moving forward. So next is posts and updates. I mentioned earlier you should be treating your social media. You should be treating your GBP like social media. You should be active in posting on there. Okay, so let's talk about how often. One post per week minimum. People need to look at that and see that you're actively on there. The good, better, best of it all. Anything is better than nothing. We can get into better and best and how to optimize and do that, and that's what people pay us to do as an agency. But for our purposes, post once a week. Again, you want before and after projects you've done. It might be a video showcasing a student dancing in your dance studio, where they started versus where they are now. It can be whatever it is with their permission. Okay, what offers? Do you have any deals? And make sure that these are real offers. Again, you don't want to put anything fake out there. There are some real strong rules about fake offers and manipulating reviews and things from the FTC. So make sure you're very careful there. FAQs. What are questions people are often asking you? If you work in a service business, or if you run the desk, or you're a solopreneur, you own your own business and you're taking all calls, what are the most frequently asked questions people get on the phone? Answer those in posts. And then at Rook, we love SAQs. What are questions people should be asking? What do you wish people would ask about what you do? Do you have anything seasonal? Right? Are you supporting your local FFA? Are you doing a fundraiser? Do you have Halloween stuff going on? Are you a dentist doing a candy buyback? Christmas stuff. If you're a faith person, post about that on there when it's Christmas season or Easter season. Like, you will attract the customers you want by being authentic. That's really the goal. And if you're not, don't manipulate it, right? It's both. And then last is proof. For example, 500 plus installs, reviews, featured testimonials, etc. You get the point. Okay. Any questions about that?
Someone is, yeah, Luis in the chat. I'm working on getting my own home inspection business. On reviews, can I ask my old clients, including my boss that I used to work for, on his business to give me some reviews once I open my Google account?
If you feel that your boss is not going to look at that and say, why on earth would I give you reviews when it's going to hurt my business? If you feel like he's not going to say that, yeah, absolutely. If you feel like you did the work for somebody and they liked you as the technician and not necessarily the business, absolutely. I think that that's authentic. You can't misrepresent. So you can't say we hired X company, but you can say Luis was awesome. If you look at Rook reviews, you'll see a lot of people talking about Phil in there. And that's because a lot of the people that are leaving reviews are consulting clients of ours. Or when I first started Rook for the first like 3 years, it was just me. And then I merged with my partners, and they were all friends that I'd worked with before in different capacities. And so Rook was mine for 3 years, and those people worked with me. So I became kind of synonymous with the brand. So just don't misrepresent, and I think you're going to be okay. The good question. Your rule for your reviews or for your post: one photo, one sentence, one call to action. You should never post anything without a call to action. Everything you do should be inviting somebody to do something. Call me, like you'll see in all of our stuff, it's get an audit. What's the one thing we want everybody to do? Get an audit. Why? Because it's going to tell us if we can help you. 2, you're going to find out a bunch of really important information. And 3, part of our ethos here and our mission is to demystify so that you aren't this industry, so that you aren't taken advantage of by snake oil salesmen and charlatans, because they exist. I bet if we did a raise of hands, most of you have been ripped off by somebody in the digital marketing space somehow, because that's just how it works. And it's been that way since I started in this industry in 2009. Like, it's just a gross industry. And so we're trying to combat that by providing these free resources, providing audits, and we want you to do that. It also helps us find out if we can help you. And sometimes people want us to do work for them, which we're happy to do. Okay. All right. So last
Sorry,
thing.
Phil, quick question to piggyback on that. Gabriel wants to know, how many links can you have off your Google business profile? He wants a link to his website, but he also wants a link to a free consultation offer.
I think there are offers in here. I think specifically your website should link to the page you want them to land on. So in our industry, there's something called a landing page. Landing page is wherever traffic lands. And there's another term for lead generation called squeeze pages. And a squeeze page is squeezing an email out of somebody. So you get them to sign up. You all did this by registering for this event. You landed on a squeeze page where it was very clear, and we asked for two things: your name and your email. What did I get? I got your name and your email. And so if you're pushing people to a squeeze page or a landing page designed to get someone to take an offer or see what's there, I think that's probably the most appropriate thing to do. Within the individual posts, let's say you have a seasonal offer or you have something that's happening for the week, you can link from the post in there as well. But I think in general, you have one website link, and then there are some things you can do with like chatting and messaging, phone calls. If you're a restaurant, there's like menus and other things you can list there as well. I think it just depends on the industry specifically. But I'd prioritize your website unless you have a very specific landing page that can do that job. Okay. All right, so just wrapping it up, let's talk about the call path. How do we kill friction? One, make sure the tap to call is visible. If you've set up your profile properly, people will be able to tap to call. You have to have it. If you don't want people hunting for your phone number. I know the first thing I do is I scroll through for phone or I scroll through for website. Those are the two things I'm doing. I don't care about anything else. Do you have messages enabled? And this might answer that question you just asked too. Messages enabled. If you can respond, I'll tell you, it's very hurtful in business to waste all the time, effort, and energy and money marketing and advertising your business to not respond to customers who want what you do. So make sure you have the ability to respond and respond quickly. Do you have a booking link? Okay. If you have it, make sure that you set that up. And that sounds to me more like your offer page that we just talked about. Last thing is a UTM on the website link. All right. So what's a UTM? UTM is a tracking metric. It's basically this thing that tells us the source, the campaign, the content. So if you got here by clicking on an ad that you saw on Facebook or Instagram or Google or anything, we know what ad you clicked on. We know what platform you were on. Were you on Instagram? Were you on Facebook? Where are you at in our funnel? We're tracking all of that data through what's called a UTM. They're free. You can just Google UTM generator. And there are a bunch of them. And you can you can have 3 videos on YouTube, 1,000 videos on YouTube about it, or a quick ChatGPT conversation about how to build a UTM for you and what you're trying to do. But what it does is it feeds all of that data into analytics. It allows you to make better decisions about your spend, your conversion rates. And if you want to know how many people are clicking to your website from your Google business profile, I promise you that's something you want to know. There's some insights you can get in GBP specifically, but that's the big one. All right. So there's a checklist, there's a worksheet, there's all the stuff you can do. Anybody who wants an audit, we're happy to do it. A couple of you we talked to, I'd encourage you to do that for your specific situation. There's some questions that are very detailed in those use cases. If you want that, you can just go to rookdigital.com/audit. That'll take you directly there. The workbook itself, Kevin, I'm just confirming that does have the checklist for the audit for them that we talked about today. Okay. So I'd also encourage you to take that worksheet, go perform this audit for yourself. Anything you can fix. That will 100% help you rank better. You can see real results real fast that way, and it's going to make a positive impact in your business in almost real time. The 7-day fix plan, there's literally like a day, like day 1, fix this, day 2, upload these many photos. And so you're breaking it into bite-sized chunks so that you're not overwhelmed spending 4 hours beating your head against the rock that is Google Business Profile. At the same time, if that's something you need help with, or you have a very specific industry or niche, niche question about it, the audit will allow us to go in and work on that with you. And we're happy to do that. So make sure you do that. Okay, that's my presentation for today. I don't know if we have any other questions. As I said, I'm happy to stay on and answer questions.
I think we've answered all the questions that were in the chat.
Okay, all right. Well, again, if this was helpful to you, one thing we would ask, Megan, what was our ask? You remember what our ask was?
Oh, If it was helpful to you, leave us a review and let us know. Leave us a really great comment on one of our live streams or join us next week and share it with a friend.
That's it. Yeah, we'd love for you to share this. This replay link we'll send out with the worksheet. Share with everybody you want. Super helpful. We typically pull these down from the replay page after 3 days or so, because we then start cutting them up to use for our own social media. But if you need something, you have a question, we're standing by to help. We'll have another event next week. Megan, do you have that topic ready? If not, we're going to send that out.
Oh, I don't have it in front of me. I'm sorry.
Okay. If you're looking for the audit, I'm just putting that link right in the chat for you, Gabriel. And then the worksheet with the audit, I'm posting that. I'm grabbing that post and reposting it here. There's the link to the workbook with the 7-day audit that you can do the quick fix. Okay. All right. With that, thank you all for your time. And then you can reach out directly as well with any specific questions and we'll help you out. Thanks, everybody. We'll talk to you later.